What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10, part 6 of Project X. This episode is pretty cool. Billy paints the boat at the end of this episode, and the color is insane. This build is going to be way over the top. It's really starting to surprise me. It's the perfect size boat. It's a 1652, well built, my all-time favorite size and hull. I'm putting this thing in a category of its own compared to any John boat you've ever seen. Let's get right into the action, guys. So as y'all just saw in the last clip, I finished up most of the internal sheeting in this front deck. And I went ahead and installed his Noco power port plug on this side. And on this side, we've got his rear nav light piece. And then I've got one of these clips right here. Now this is a flip up cleat. And these are pretty cool. They're stainless. I put these in Neptune and I like these. I was happy with them. So I'm gonna be putting 2 of these in here. Now, obviously in the last episode, Brian with Seaside came by and he scanned his whole boat. Well, after he went home and looked at the program, he said there was a couple of things that he wanted to come back and rescan, and that works out perfect because I want him to scan around these pieces that I just put up into these top corners over here. That way they'll all be incorporated into the turf. He's coming over tomorrow to scan this boat again, so I don't really want to take too many of these hatches and stuff out of here because then I got to put them right back in before he scans it tomorrow night. Now, I did get a bunch of parts over here in the mail. These all came from Ashmore Marine. And this one's pretty cool. It sits up on the front dual graph bridge. And this part up here is for his GPS puck. So we can hook that up into it. He's got a lot of cable management pieces, a trolling motor handle. And this is like a bait tray divider. I'm going to try to incorporate that up into the big hatch up there. But all these products came from Ashmore Marine. That's the same company you got the little plier holders for and the die holder that's going up into that front compartment. And he reached out to them, told them what we were doing, and they gave us all this stuff as a sponsorship. So I'm going to try to put as much of this stuff in the boat as I can, and I'll show you guys those when we get to them. But I thought that was pretty cool. You can go check out Ashmore Marine if you're interested in any of these parts right here. This live well that's going in here is going to be a little bit different than the way I normally set these up. Now, it is going to be the same type of deal with the way that the aerator and all the screens and pumps are hooked up in here. The only difference is we're going to be using this flow right system. So we've got an entire gigantic 1-pound brick of parts over here for that. And we're going to be running it all off of one pump. So this pump is going to be hooked up to not only fill it, but to recirculate it. And I have the floor drain in here that's welded solid. So the drain that comes with that live well is going to go in the side over here. And it'll still work fine because all that's going to do is to recirculate in here and it'll still suck from the side. And then he can pull this main drain when he gets where he's going and gets out of the boat and run all the water out of here. I just didn't want to put it in the bottom of the boat because it's almost impossible to get to. And it's a whole lot stronger having this welded through hole fitting for your live well than that piece of plastic on there. So I was checking out all the parts for this that came in that kit, and it looks like it's gonna be pretty easy to install. And the way it's gonna work is the hole is gonna go into the back of the boat instead of having the hole going right out the side over here for its main fill in. And that will allow me to have a screen on the back of it and keep the whole side of the boat streamlined without anything poking out the side. Now, I will probably put the overflow right out the side because I really don't think it's important enough to run that thing all the way to the back and down there. I'll just have that one sticking out the side. But other than that, there shouldn't be any other holes going through the outside of the hull in this rig. With that being said, I kind of need to put that hole in there because Billy's getting ready to paint this boat. Now, obviously, the boat itself is going to be getting wrapped on the side, but we need to paint this top rail and around the whole back of the transom back here. So I got to put a hole, down over here somewhere for the main pump inline. So I'm going to try to get that done, and then the whole thing should pretty much be ready for Billy to paint. The holes for the overflow and stuff going through the side of the hull, I can do that later because he's not going to be painting there anyways, because the entire outsides of the hull is going to have a cool wrap on it. Since the main pump and everything is going to be in the rear of the boat, that kind of changes up the way that I can do this panel right here. Now, I was figuring on having a removable pan here and having his pumps right here. But since I don't have to do it that way, I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm still thinking of having some type of a deeper removable pan in here because I still got to run the overflow across here. So that's going to be kind of permanent. I need to have that up as high as possible in this live well so that the water can fill up as high as possible inside of it. But I'm also thinking about incorporating some switches in here because the main switch panel is going to be going on this side over here. And that thing is kind of small for me to fit all the switches that we're going to have in here because the lights that are going in here for the strip rails are interchangeable between green and white. Now, the strip rails cannot both be green and white at the same time, but you can flip in between them. And the way you do that is just reverse the polarity of the actual wires that are going to the switches. Now, if you turn both of them on, it just won't work. So I like to have the ability to go white or green, interior and exterior. So in order to do that, that's going to take 4 switches by itself. We got an 8-gang switch panel that's going in there, and that's not going to be enough for all the other electronics that's going to be on in here because you're going to have white lights inside of all the compartments. He's still got his navigation lights, and there's a couple other things that I need to incorporate in here, like the pump for this live well and the timer. So I'm going to have some type of electrical panel in here. It's probably just going to have all of the stuff that's going to control the live well. And then on this other side back here, I'll have his nav lights and all his LED switches over here. So I'm going to get some of this stuff figured out right now. And then we're going to get this thing scanned tomorrow. So I got a lot going on. Let's get back to work. All right, so Brian stopped by last night. He scanned the boat again. I didn't film any of it because we did that in the last episode, but it turned out good. He did a little bit different the way he scanned it, and I think it's gonna be a lot easier for the people to read it at Southern Coolers. That's who I'm going to be using to actually make the turf and cut out all the template and the design work and all that stuff is Southern Cooler Marine. That's owned by Ben LaRange. Ben's a cool cat. I've been talking to him off and on for a couple of years. I've been trying to get on this kit for a while and we finally got here, so it's gonna be dope. But anyways, now that we've got the boat scanned, I can get back to work on some stuff. I've got the gas pistons I want to install inside of the big hatch right here. I brought those home with me. I used some stainless steel gas pistons. I'm gonna put 2 of those on that front deck hatch. And I went ahead and cut the hole in the back for his pumps and stuff for the live well, but I gotta get some paint inside of there. Billy's gonna paint the boat this upcoming weekend, so I can't really install too much of the plumbing or electronics as far as wiring and stuff, because I don't really want to get paint all over all this stuff. But I do still have a little bit of metal work to do inside of the boat. So I'm gonna put the gas pistons on this front hatch. And I made a gas tank pan. So here, this is my gas tank in this box. And this aluminum pan down here, this is basically just gonna hold the gas tank when he sets it in. I'm gonna weld that up in the back compartment back there and get that thing right where it needs to be. That way his tank isn't sliding around while he's out there on the water or trailing the boat. Anyways, guys, we've got a lot to do. This project's getting insane and I'm getting hyped about it. So let's get back to work. right, so you guys just saw we got the gas pistons hooked up on this big hatch right here. Now I use stainless steel gas pistons for this stuff, and the way that I install this is with some aluminum angles. I use 1x1 by 1/8 inch aluminum angle, and I mounted those pieces up on the inside of this hatch. I went ahead and welded them solid. That way you don't have to worry about these things breaking off at a later date, and they're super strong. These are all custom built, and this is the way my hatches come. If you get gas pistons installed, they will come with these pieces welded solid, and you can just replace the gas pistons if they wear out. I mean, these things will last 5 to 10 years, and if you need to replace them, it's no different than replacing the ones that are in the back hatch of your SUV or something like that. But what I want to do now, I'm limited on what I can do with this build because I got to take these hatches out here and get them powder coated, and Billy's about to paint the boat. So I'm going to do as much metal work as I can, and I have some more metal work to do up underneath this recessed foot pedal tray. So check this out. We cut this hole in here to put this recessed foot pedal tray in here. And when we did that, we had to cut through 1.5 of the main supports in here. And this thing is spongy. Look, when I put this recessed foot pedal in here, if I push down, you can see it's got a big gap in it. Well, it can't be like that. We can't have this in here. And I mean, I expected that. But the reason it's like that is because we cut through the main supports in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back and we're going to bridge across these pieces right here with a piece of 1.5 by 1.5 by 1/8 aluminum angle. And then normally the builds I do don't have this wall in here. Now this wall is basically just a divider, because if you look right here, this is the hole that's in the original deck where you can access this area as storage. So we're gonna leave that alone so he can still access this area in here for his life jackets or rain gear, stuff he doesn't need to have access to all the time. But what I'm gonna do is run the angle across here, and then I'm gonna run it down here and attach it to this wall. Normally I would weld it to this floor rib in here, but since this wall is already welded to the floor rib, we're gonna incorporate this into the kickstand for this recessed foot pedal tray. I'm gonna put one on either side. Make sure this thing is super strong. I'm gonna jack it up where it needs to be. That way it's perfectly flush all the way from the bow to the stern. And we're gonna make this thing where he doesn't have to worry about it at a later date. It's not gonna get spongy. It's not gonna be squishy. It's gonna be solid. It's gonna be better than it ever was originally. Let's get back to work, guys. All right, so the recessed foot pedal tray reinforcements are installed. This thing is solid. You never have to worry about this again. Now I've got to get all these hatches ready to take to the shop tomorrow. I'm gonna drop these off at the powder coaters. They're all finished up except for the holes. I got to drill holes in here, usually about every 6 to 8 inches. Then I got to countersink them. There's a lot of hatches in here. A lot of holes got to go into these things. I got to get these done now before they get powder coated. So I don't want to drill through the powder coat. The other thing I gotta do is I gotta get some self-etching primer and some sandpaper. I'm gonna hit all these bare aluminum spots on the side of the hole, these top rails. These things gotta be sanded. I'm gonna grind down these welds a little bit. I gotta hit all this up with some self-etching primer tomorrow because Billy's painting this boat next weekend. So I gotta get this stuff on here so it has a couple of days to set up before he paints it. And Billy's gonna kill this thing. I already know the paint color he picked out. It's dope. So you guys stay tuned. It's gonna be sick. I'm gonna get this stuff going, guys. Let's get back to work. So it's a late night. I got all the hatches finished up. They're all loaded up in my truck. Taking them to the shop. I'm gonna drop them off at the powder coaters tomorrow. And then when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to get this boat sanded up and get a coat of self-etching primer on it. That way it'll be ready for Billy. We got a lot going on, guys. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so I got a coat of paint on the boat. It looks pretty good. At least I think it does. I hope it's gonna be what Billy needs. Today is Thursday, February 8th, and Billy's original idea was to paint the boat on Saturday morning. Now, I was gonna meet him there with the boat and do some filming, but change of plans. He just called me earlier today and said that he wants to paint the boat tomorrow morning. So there was one other thing that I was thinking I should probably do, because I'm not 100% sold on if I'm going to use the turf to go from the deck up to the side of the top gunnels. And I did get it scanned for that, so there's a possibility that I might use those, but I want to get Billy to paint it, because if I don't use those turf pieces, then I want it to have a nice coat of paint on it and have a finished look. We'll probably slap some decals or something up there. But if I'm going to get him to paint the sides, then up in this front area right here, where I ripped this whole section out, I'm going to have to weld that back in. And that's going to mean that I'm going to be welding about 2 inches away from his painted side panel, and that's not going to work out too good. There's a lot of heat that comes off that weld, and it's probably going to end up messing up the paint on that sidewall. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and install this now. I really wanted to leave this out until I put the turf in there. That way I could turf inside of there, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. I can reach my hand up inside of there. I'll make some cardboard templates for it if I have to. So I'm going to get this piece installed into the boat permanently. I brought home a couple of little pieces of 1/8 inch aluminum over here. I'm going to put like a backer plate around this whole thing and put some rivets in it. Then I'm going to come back and weld some good spots around the thing. That way it's nice and strong. Not going to be that big of a deal, but it's always something. That last minute stuff is what makes Trick 10s Trick 10s. Anyways, guys, I'm going to turn this camera around. I'm going to get this stuff done. Tomorrow, Billy's going to paint this thing. All right, so I got this piece welded back in here. Now, I did add some stiffener pieces behind these. There's one here and one here. And I took some pieces of flat 1/8 inch aluminum and I bent them like an L shape, and that's how it's sitting in there. This one has a lip on this back side right here. It's like 3 inches by 1/2 inch down. Same thing with this one here. And I shot these rivets through here. These are countersunk rivets, and we countersunk all these. It's nice and smooth. Everything worked out very well. It's very smooth. I mean, all of the plate on the deck, it's perfectly flush. So you'll never know that this was cut out. Once we put this sheet of turf in here, it's gonna be like one piece. So it worked out good. I'm glad that I did this ahead of time, because you can see how close it is over here. I mean, that's closer than I thought. It's only like 1.25 inches. And it definitely would have melted the paint on these sidewalls. And there's a 50-50 chance that we're gonna leave these sidewalls exposed and just run turf up to here. I don't know. I'm hoping that the turf that goes on these sides is gonna look good, but if it doesn't, then we're gonna shit can it. But this is a big added thing to go ahead and do now. I'm glad I did this. So as you guys just saw in the last clip, my daughter Bree was out here helping me. She drilled some holes in here, countersunk some holes, and shot a bunch of rivets. I mean, it's easy with the M12 rivet gun, but I like teaching my kids hands-on stuff, and it turned out good, man. It's awesome to have the kids helping out. Now that I got this finished up, I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum out the rest of this boat, clean this stuff up. I might shoot a couple of rivets through this piece right here. Go ahead and install this permanently, because he's gonna paint all this stuff. But we're pretty much ready, guys. It's gonna be sick. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what Billy does with his boat. Hopefully he gives us some footage. Let's get back to work. So I just got home with the boat and Billy killed this thing. Big ups to Billy Elliott. If you guys want to get your boat painted, I'm telling you, the dude is a beast with the paint gun. Let's check this thing out, guys. Check it out, man. Killer paint job. Got a little bit of water on it. They washed the car next to it. I'm gonna wipe this off, but man, it looks good. It's getting kind of dark out here. It's overcast too, so that's not really helping. But it looks really clean in person, man. Put a coat of clear on it, made it look a little bit deeper. God, it's perfect though, man. I'm hyped to make this build top notch. Billy is great at what he does, and it's really nice to have a friend like him to help me out with projects like this. It's gonna be perfect. Whew, I'm hyped, man. It's got a little bit of a sparkle to it. You can kind of see it when the light hits it. Obviously, you guys are gonna be seeing a lot more of this boat once I get this thing finished up. Looks good though. I mean, the whole side over here, all this is getting wrapped, so you'll never know that it wasn't painted underneath there. There's no point in paying him to waste his time painting that. Looks really dope, man. Can't wait to get these powder coated hatches in here and start putting this thing back together. All right, so now I'm really starting to get the full feel for what this build is gonna look like. The paint, the wraps coming soon, the turf. I gotta finish putting all this stuff together, guys. I'm getting hyped. I mean, this project is humongous. I've never been more excited to finish a project than this one right here. I've got so much stuff going on right now, guys, but I'm gonna wrap this thing up as soon as I can. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like, subscribe button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about the boat, about the build. I don't care, I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want any merchandise, check that out on trick10s.net. If you want help with your build or any products, you can find all this stuff on my website at trick10sjonboats.com. I'll see y'all next time. Let's get back to work.